Hello, everyone. I'm Chuang. Let's draw the tail of Microraptor today. We are going to draw the tail of Microraptor, observed from a top-down view. When drawing, we should pay attention to the relationship between the tail appearance and the inside skeleton when it was alive. Actually, its skeleton ended here, and the back part was all feathers. Therefore, the shape of its tail with feathers was largely different from the form of its bones. In addition, we need to note that not every part of the Microraptor's tail had flight feathers. They grew from the middle toward the back. Its flight feathers were vertical at the beginning. Toward the back, they were more and more inclined. At the end of its tail, they became to structures similar to a rabbit's ears. Besides, let's pay attention to the way its feathers were arranged. Generally, to keep the air flowing during the flight, the feathers in the front were always on top of the ones in the rear, one over another. In this way, when the air blew over, the feathers would remain straight and not bent, and follow the wind. When drawing, we can first use a dotted line to draw the part that can represent the inside skeleton. Let's end the dotted line here, meaning that its tail bones were only as long as this. Then let's draw the feathers on its tail. While drawing, we need to note that the reason we show the skeleton is for our better understanding of where the feathers began to grow. Only half of its tail had flight feathers, and they started from here. In this regard, Microraptor was different from dinosaurs such as Archaeopteryx and Anchiornis. Generally, those animals had feathers on the whole tail, but the feathers of Microraptor began to grow from the middle of its tail, and formed a shape close to a diamond, with the longest part here. When drawing them, we need to draw them contracted inward at the end. Now, let's draw its tail feathers. We can draw its edge with wavy lines. This point is the highest, and then it goes down. It is worth noting that the last two feathers on the tail end of Microraptor, which looked like the two ears of a rabbit, were much longer than the other feathers. We need to draw the edges. They stood side by side, like a rabbit's two folded ears. Let's connect them. Do the same on the other side. Let's then draw the other side. This point is the highest, starting from here. Next, let's draw a layer of fluff covering the feathers. Like this, the fluff grew backward like many birds today. These flight feathers had a layer of fluff covering on top. We cannot call it fluff. It was actually a kind of feather, with a single stand and no branches. Then we can draw the first half of its tail. On the edge of the root of its tail, there was such fluff too. Its tail was very thin. Near its bottom, it began to become wide. This is about the overall shape of its tail. Along the dotted line, which represents the skeleton, we can draw a fine line seen to be made up of feathers like this. But we need to draw it soft, and it stands for the central line of its whole tail. Let's suppose the sun shines in this direction. Then we can draw some traces of hair in the shadow below to make it look more three-dimensional. For the upper part, we can leave it blank. Next, let's seal with the overlaps between feathers. The overlaps, like wings, were arranged in a way that the feathers closer to the tail, we can call it the near end, were on top of those at the far end. In the beginning, we can draw them straight. Toward the back, we need to note that the feathers all pointed backward like this. And the oblique angle gradually became larger, and eventually, it became vertical like this. The other side is the same. If you think it's not easy to control the angle well, you can show the direction every few feathers. When drawing, note that the curve is pointing outward, and that the inner feathers are pressed on the outer ones. And in this position, they became very vertical. This angle gradually becomes smaller. To start like this will help us to present them more accurately. And draw the inner ones easily. As there were a large number of feathers on the tail of Microraptor, for the last two, either the left pressed against the right or the right was on top of the left. Anyway, they were like the midmost to tail feathers of modern birds. We just need to draw one over another, no matter which one is on top. When it adjusted its movement, it might be the other way round. Microraptor had a lot of feathers. Normally, we should draw races for each feather, but as the number was so high, we don't have to draw all the races. We can use thin lines to show the one near the lower part. And then the last two ones in the rear. For the upper feathers, we can show some races with fine lines, and no need to draw each of them. Lastly, let's slightly add some details. In these positions, we can slightly draw some shadings to make it look more sense of layers. Good, like this, we've finished drawing the tail of Microraptor.